You all know, I think, of course, we are living an uncertain and unexpected period that is affecting the global economy in a very massive way. But why everyone is speaking about a sort of depression or even a recession period? Why is this affecting so much the global economy? So recession is a decline in the economic activity of a region or of a country and refers to a particular decline in economic activity over 2 consecutive quarters and a rise in unemployment. Depression is even worse because it is something like a sort of extreme recession and it can last for 2, 3, 4 years more or less, and it brings to a decrease of 10% of the gross domestic product. And this is exactly what experts are forecasting for the first 2 quarters of 2020. But why all of this is happening right now? Why we're speaking about a depression or a recession from different point of view? This is happening because in general many countries stop their production because of quarantine, some more strictly than others. So people are not working. People, because they're not working, they're not earning money, and then they don't spend money. If they don't spend money, the economy stops. If the economy stops, industries stops at all. And then again, people don't work, they don't earn money, and it continues like this for infinitely times. The very important thing that we must take into account and consider is that everything depends from the outside. So this is a sort of exogenous phenomenon that's happening right now. It was unexpected and it came from the outside, so it's not controllable. It doesn't depend on financial crisis, bankruptcy and deficiency of liquidity, like for example the crisis of 2008 and 1929. Then we are facing, for the first time in the modern era, this sort of exogenous phenomenon, this exogenous crisis. Something similar happened in the 13th, 14th century with the Black Death, if I'm not wrong, but it was completely different. Another very important thing we have to take into account is that now is the first time, as I said, that we're facing this situation in the modern era. So we just don't know how to deal with it. We don't know with certainty how to deal with it. We are just trying to mitigate this situation and trying to deal with it in certain ways. Some countries in different ways than others, but in general we're trying to solve this situation. But first of all, that thing, I don't want to say its name, must end and won't be any more a threat for human beings or for the globe in general. Then I think, just in my opinion, it will be easier for the countries in general to solve and to deal with the economic crisis than it was in, for example, 2008, 1929, 1987, yeah, if I'm not wrong. Because, as I said before, it's an exogenous phenomenon, so it came from the outside. It's not a problem of bank, it's not a problem of governments that are in crisis. Nowadays, for example, we have liquidity. Banks have enough cash, they work, and they will probably be able to sustain and help companies, public services and countries in general, when everything will end. But of course this depends on when this situation will finish. So for example, if it won't be a threat for human beings anymore till the end of July, we will face a first scenario, we can say. So banks will have enough money to sustain countries and countries to sustain companies. If it will end, we can say, by the end of the next year, it will be completely different. And again, this creates uncertainty. So what are the economic decisions that banks and governments can take to deal with this catastrophic situation? Single member states are trying to help companies, local companies, organizations in general, giving them liquidity. But where can they find enough money to help them? I give you an example, just to let you know. I'm living in Italy, I'm Italian, I'm in Europe of course, so in these situations the Central Bank of Europe can try to help companies, organizations and countries as well, banks in general, giving them liquidity. But as you probably know, Italy has a very high public debt, so the interest rates that will be charged to Italy or to a country like Italy with a very high public debt will be very high because of the risk giving them money. So one possible situation can be for example, the quantitative easing. It is a process through which the Central Bank of Europe it actually buy government bonds from countries who needs money, just to give them liquidity through the purchase of bonds. As I explained you before, so we have a country with a very high public debt, then interest rates fail to work in case the country has money to the banks through loans, and then quantitative easing can be a useful solution, we can say. Another possible solution could be the so much discussed nowadays European Sustainable Mechanism, the ESM. So because I'm living in Europe, I know more about European things, about European mechanism, rather than, for example, US mechanism. So I'm giving you this kind of examples. It is a sort of agency that provides financial assistance through loans to banks and countries that are in trouble or in difficulty moments, with a maximum lending capacity of 500 billion of euros, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's a very big amount of money. The presence of ESM reduces the probability of a sovereign default of a country, refinancing the high cost of public debt of a country with lower cost than, for example, quantitative easing or, for example, other loans. But there is a little problem, not so little, it depends on point of view. So that's why we are discussing it a lot in these days, and is the conditionality of ESM. This conditionality can take three different kind of forms. There can be a precautionary loan, so the ESM gives money to a country without conditionality, for example, and in this case the capital involvement is very low. There can be a precautionary loan with the conditionality, and so this conditionality is a sort of requirement of new reforms from the country, just to make sure that the country will use the money the ESM gives him in a sustainable way. So just to make sure that the country will try to sustain itself, to improve its conditions, giving the money. And the last step is a strong capital involvement when the country is very in trouble, so the ESM needs to give the country a lot of money, a very high, huge capital requirement. And in this case, as you may probably know, it's not so easy to assess the right and sustainable conditionality to countries, because, as I said before, we are living an uncertain period, so we don't know when this period will end, and so it's not easy to sustain a good conditionality. So we discussed about European government, central bank, governments in general, member states, what can do about this situation, but what can companies and organizations do to face with these situations? Different situations bring to different competitive and strategic decisions about companies. Nowadays, in the situation we're facing this period again, I know that many experts and organizations know and think that the best way in which they can react is through a good pricing strategy. A pricing strategy can be crucial for the welfare of the company and the business, trying to know how to price its final product to customers and to consumers, rather than, for example, lower costs. A good pricing strategy can be crucial for the welfare of a business, of a company, and creating a competitive advantage, for example, trying to set a good price for the product sold to ultimate customers. I explain it in few simple words. Relating costs, volume and price, a 1% increase in the price of final good can be even better than 1% reduction in costs, because 1% increase in the price can increase by 5 to 8% more or less the profits of the firm. And this has a very much higher impact on the profits of the organization, rather than, for example, as I told you before, a reduction of costs of 1%, or even better than a increase in volume of 1%, because increasing the volume many times increase costs, and so it's not a very sustainable way. But the pricing strategy is not only about the increase of 1% of the price of final goods. Companies could then charge a competitive price before competitors, direct or indirect competitors. Or maybe they can try to focus on different segments of production, or adapt their business model to the new different needs of clients, changed because of this crisis. As you probably know, stock market is facing a very difficult moment as well nowadays because it's linked to the global economy. But there are still some very good opportunities for investors to do their job. For example, choosing the right market in which to invest or the right companies. But we can speak about this in another video because it's a very complicated and very long concept to explain. You know, the more we stay home now, the sooner we will be back going out. This is a very easy task to do. Just stay home. So guys, I hope you liked this video or at least found it useful to better know and be conscious and knowledge about the situation we're facing now. I think I'll bring some other videos like this to speak about the economy in general or financial things in general. I don't know. I still don't know. Maybe I have enough time now in quarantine at home, so I can think about something. If you have some questions, you can just write a comment below, or if you want just to tell me something that I can find it useful. Hope you like this video, click the like button and subscribe to subscribe. Thanks.